Starman, Karen Allen is kidnapped by a creature from another planet who looks just like Jeff Bridges. Starman is one of 4 new holiday blockbusters we'll be reviewing this week on At the Movies, the movie review program. I'm Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times. In addition to Starman by John Carpenter, who usually makes supernatural thrillers like Halloween and Christine, we're also going to be reviewing Jack Lemmon as a troubled priest in Mass Appeal, and Tom Selleck as a cop of the future in Runaway. But first, Gene starts with one of the most eagerly awaited films of recent years, Dune.
I wish Aroma the Educated Skunk were here, because if it were up to me, and the picking the skunk of the week is a joint enterprise on this show, if it were up to me, Aroma would be here, because Dune, one of 5 science fiction films being released this holiday season, is the worst, according to me, by a wide margin. It's physically ugly. It contains at least a dozen gory, gross-out scenes. Some of its special effects are cheap, surprisingly cheap, because this film cost a reported $40 to $45 million, and its story is confusing beyond belief. In case I haven't made myself clear, I hated watching this film. I wish I could have left after 20 minutes. I couldn't. I had to stay there another 2 hours. What's Dune about? As best I could tell, and this sounds like the introduction to City Heat, you know, this holiday Christmas season has films that are unintelligible. It's another one of those young prince fairy tales, I think, with a young man learning to be brave and control his emotions and thereby grow up to lead a nation and save the universe. Now, here's one of the climactic battles between the henchmen of the bad guys, played by the blonde rock musician Sting, and the film's young messianic prince.
Why prolong the inevitable? I will kill you! I will kill him! What? I will kill him! Who is the little one? A pet, perhaps? Will she deserve my special attentions?
Real thrilling there, and he's going to have to learn there to go with the flow, and that's the message, and that's why he's Prince, and that's why the world is saved, and I'm very happy for him. He's quite a guy. Dune takes place on 4 planets. I could never keep them straight. It introduces dozens of characters with unpronounceable names. I couldn't keep them straight. Basically, what's going on, I think, is that this young man's mission is to destroy the universe's dependency on a substance called spice, which has everybody doped up, and also to harness some devil worms. If he can do all that, worms that crawl up like Moby Dick out of the sea, in this case out of the desert. And I tell you, Gregory Peck was a lot more interesting chasing the Moby Dick than this guy is surfboarding off one of these worms. This is a shocking film at times. If he does all that, if he can harness those worms, he's going to bring peace to the world. But what a load of junk we have to sit through, with people getting their nipples ripped off their chests and having fluid drop out, with a premature baby being born in blood, with facial boils being lanced. It's like a medical show. The filmmaking is shoddy also in several respects. Giant holes in the story are filled with apparently last-minute voice-over narrations to explain what's happening to characters. Crucial action scenes are begun, then needlessly interrupted, sometimes forgotten. Basically, I watched 2 things while watching Dune. I watched the movie, yes, and I watched my watch. This film was pure torture to sit through.
I didn't like it.
Why did you say, no, it doesn't qualify for...
I said you couldn't bring Aroma the Educated Skunk.
Why not?
I don't think it's a skunk. I think it's a bad movie. I don't recommend it. But I do think it qualifies as one of the great follies of motion picture history. And I think that for some people, first of all, the Dune fanatics are probably going to go see it anyway. For certain other people, there's a certain amount of interest in this film. There's a certain amount of shocking interest in these amazing sets that are, you know, totally senseless and never used, and they walk through and you see $30 million behind them, and then they go into some little room and do something. It's amazing how arrogant they were in thinking that they didn't have to tell any story at all. And then it's amazing that then they throw in the narration. It starts out with the actress Virginia Madsen on screen, and she's saying, these are a few things you need to know about my father and about these 4 planets and about the worms and so forth. And you're saying, wait a minute, I'd rather be confused and not know anything than be confused by the explanation.
Yeah, I sat there, you may have heard me, 5 minutes into this film, I yelled out at the screen, I give up. And then I had to watch the rest of it.
And yet there are certain images in the film that are striking. There are certain moments that are fun, even if they are gruesome. I don't recommend the film, yet at the same time, it is not the skunk of the week because it's not totally worthless, because just as an example of a totally misguided project, I think it deserves a little niche of its own in the Cinematic Hall of Fame.
It's a skunk.
Next at the movies, mankind sends an invitation to outer space and receives an unexpected visitor in Starman.
You all right? You're not from around here, are you?
Our next movie is named Starman, and it begins in 1977 when America launched that Voyager spacecraft with its message to whoever might be living beyond the solar system. Remember that, if you get this message, please give us a ring. And according to the movie, the message was received, and as the film opens, a visiting spacecraft crash lands in Wisconsin trying to respond to our invitation in Voyager.
That's where I'd go.
Is it Wisconsin? Well, they're actually aiming someplace else, but the plans go awry, and then the visitor, which is so far just a glowing ball of pure energy, floats into the house of a young widow, played by Karen Allen, and he sees a photograph of her late husband and turns into an identical clone of the husband. He then forces her to drive him to the great meteor crater in Arizona, where he has a rendezvous with his mothership that's going to pick him up again. And in this scene, they're on the road, and the Starman, played by Jeff Bridges, is gradually learning the ways of man.
You ever get hungry? Empty here. Like a car needs gas?
Yes. His body has a terrible emptiness. This is called hungry?
Yeah, and when people get hungry, they have to eat food.
Eat. Yes, we must do that. We will stop at food station. You have hungry too.
Starving. Haven't eaten since.
Oh my God! What are you doing? Okay, are you crazy? You almost got us killed. You said you watched me. You said you knew the rules.
I do know the rules.
Oh, well, for your information, pal, that was a yellow light back there.
I watched you very carefully. Red light stop, green light go, yellow light go, very fast.
That's an interesting otherworldly aura that Jeff Bridges brings to the Starman. They run out of money, but the Starman thinks he can take care of that in Las Vegas.
Where's my wallet? My wallet.
What is wrong?
Where the hell is my wallet? What are we going to do now?
It's all right.
You don't understand. No credit card, no money, no car. No car. We're never going to get there on time.
It's all right.
Now. Handy little talent you got there, but you better spread it around a little. These guys get kind of curious if you can make jackpots at once.
One of the nice things about Jeff Bridges' performance in this movie is that little bird-like kind of way that he has. He's a very intelligent creature from someplace else, but he's still learning how to use this human body. The movie has a lot of scenes like those two we just saw, where the Starman has those special powers, but Nevertheless, he's sometimes totally mystified by human customs like red lights and green lights, and inevitably the Starman and the human woman begin to respect each other and even to love each other on this road trip. The movie begins as science fiction, but it turns into a contemporary version of a road movie like It Happened One Night or They Live by Night or maybe even Badlands. It's very effective. Starman is a movie with interesting ideas and with a very sound and evolving emotional center, and I liked it a lot.
I think I liked it maybe even more than you did.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the highlights of the Christmas movie season, which has had mostly disappointments for me. This is one I recommend flat out. No qualifications whatsoever. I liked everything about the film. Jeff Bridges has one of the best track records of any actor working today for picking good movies. You look at his films, he's rarely in a bad film, and he does a terrific job here. Karen Allen is an exciting young actress. She finally gets a role worthwhile. We can put Until September
Isn't this interesting?
aside.
The Starman makes a better romantic couple with Karen Allen than that guy.
Yeah, the overtly romantic film. That's exactly right. And I think
it's a better love story than the one
much
set in
better
Paris.
love story. And I think that's what really carries it, is that, you know, we can get carried away with technology with these science fiction films. If at the center is a human relationship, a little bit of unrequited love here as it's going to turn out, it's wonderful, and we'll accept anything if that relationship is
And yet,
key.
at the same time, also, there is a certain amount of science fiction here. For example, in the character by Charlie Martin Smith, it was the government scientist who was trying to chase this man.
Yes.
And he's thinking, this is our big chance. This is a visitor from outer space.
Right.
And needless to say, in old science fiction tradition, the government is going to track him down and treat him like enemies and be very paranoid. So it's a lot of fun, this movie.
A lot of fun and a very wonderful
John
relationship.
Carpenter's best films.
Oh, yeah, the best, I think, since Halloween. Coming up next at the movies, Jack Lemmon plays a popular suburban priest whose life is upset by a young rebel.
The boy made a decision to be celibate. Celibacy is celibacy.
Mass Appeal, featuring Jack Lemmon in the kind of serious but heartwarming role he likes best these days, one where he plays a character in pain who learns a lesson. Such a role won Lemmon an Oscar in Save the Tiger, and now in Mass Appeal, he plays a popular suburban priest, the kind who drives a $45,000 Mercedes-Benz. Nice job. He's a jokester with his sermons, and everybody loves him because he's so charming and so reassuring. Then trouble walks into his church in the form of a zealous young priest in training who immediately begins spouting off that Lemmon and his boss, the Monsignor in town, are both a couple of religious fat cats. This young priest favors admitting women to the priesthood. He defends a couple of student priests who are accused of being homosexuals. And here, he practices his defense of his beliefs to the Monsignor.
Do you think that priests should be allowed to sleep together?
They weren't priests. They weren't even deacons.
Well, do you think such practices are easily dispensed with?
Is your question something along the lines of how you going to keep them down on the farm after they've seen Perry?
Well, just answer, Michael. Just answer the man's question.
Yes. I think Frank and Alfred would have stayed down on the farm after they'd seen Perry.
Well, let me put my next question in your native tongue. Have you ever seen Perry? And if you have seen Perry, were they Parisiennes or Parisiennes? Both.
Now, that admission will get him bounced out of the parish if the Monsignor finds out. So Lemmon, who really does sort of admire this young man and admire the fervor of his beliefs, he wants him to practice some diplomacy when he's called before the Monsignor, and that's the advice he gives him.
If you can afford not to be a priest, tell the truth. But if you want to be a priest, lie. Mark, I didn't want this special assignment any more than you did in the beginning, but it's different now. I see why you need to be a priest.
Why?
Because you're a lunatic. And the church needs lunatics. Oh, you're one of those priceless lunatics that comes along every so often and keeps the church alive. But I'll tell you, there's a problem with lunatics. They don't know how to survive. I do.
Now, that's a good scene, and that's what I like about the movie. I still am seeing in that scene as I watch it Jack Lemmon wearing a cardigan sweater and a collar, and I know it's Jack Lemmon. At the same time, Lemmon is such a good actor that his emotions ring true, and so I accept the scene because of its emotional quality. Mass Appeal is a most traditional Hollywood film, you can tell it that, a comfortable message picture with not too many surprises, but I still liked it. I liked it because of the two lead performances, actually, by Jack Lemmon and by film newcomer Željko Ivanek, who I saw once on Broadway in
Brighton Beach
Memoirs by Neil Simon. He was very good there, too. So this guy has a future. Lemon is very good at playing world-weary sorts, and after a while, we do believe his character of a seemingly cheery, but as we later learn, an alcoholic, profoundly depressed man of the cloth. And Željko Ivanek is given some very well-written lines to perform in the role of the young, zealous spirit. So the twists and turns of the story are a little bit predictable, yes, and they are corny at times, but these two performances allow these two characters to say their piece about the occasionally stodgy state of the organized religion, and I like what they had to say.
Well, I like the way they had to say it. I agree that the two performances are very good. Jack Lemmon, in particular, is such a joy when he plays these complicated, thoughtful,
beat-up guys,
jolly on the outside, hurting on the inside kinds of characters.
Yeah.
The movie itself, I think you're quite right in saying it's a very predictable Hollywood movie. And
Absolutely.
Also, you said you liked what it had to say. I didn't like what it had to say because what it seemed to be saying is theological beliefs are all relative. What really matters is the personality of the person who has them. And so they said that the Monsignor, played by Charles Durning, as a stodgy, prejudiced guy, and they set up the young guy as this noble, young, fiery young deacon who wants to be a priest. But the fact is that there's something to be said for what the Monsignor believes, and there's something to be said for against what the other guy believes. And the movie never really gets into the theological issues. It just gets into who's the nicer one.
Well, no, I think that, I mean, for example, one of the issues that's debated is should women be allowed to be priests? Now, of course, there is something to be said for the saying that women should not be allowed, but all that is that's what I believe. As opposed to the other side, which is saying, you know, the world has changed a lot in a couple thousand years, and maybe, and I'm really getting into the theory of religion, but maybe that things should be a little bit more opened up if times were different now. So, you know, I think that it's more, I think it's written by somebody, Roger, that believes that women should be allowed to be free.
See, the movie doesn't really care about what is the right and wrong answer to that question. All the movie cares about is whether or not the young man can express himself by having
Then we disagree a little bit because I think the movie does have a position to take.
Okay, we differ. Next at the movies, Tom Selleck on the trail of some runaway robots. The movie is named Runaway, and it stars Tom Selleck, the man from Magnum P.I., as a cop of the future, the near future, when household robots are part of our everyday lives. The robots prepare dinner and do the housekeeping, and once in a while they go a little bit berserk and start killing their masters. Well, that's the price you pay for progress. Selleck plays a cop whose assignment is to go after those crazy robots and put them out of business when they go on a murderous rampage. Then he comes up against a villain played by Gene Simmons of the rock group Kiss, who wants to control this futuristic technology in order to gain personal power. In this scene, Selleck and the villain, Simmons, trade hostages as they battle over technical secrets.
All right, now send Jackie over to me.
Send Thompson first.
What's the matter, Sergeant? Don't you trust me? Come on, I haven't got all night.
It's my insurance policy.
Send Thompson.
At the same time.
Go ahead, Jackie.
I'm stupid, Ramsey?
What's the matter? Something wrong?
These aren't all of them, Ramsey. Nobody does that to me. Nobody.
I love the technology there. See, those bullets are little computerized bullets that have your name on them, and they can find you by your own heat pattern, but they move so slowly. Did you notice that?
Yes.
He could dodge it. This is really terrific. You see it coming and you dodge, and it misses you. This is really a breakthrough. Runaway has good performances in it by Selleck and by Gene Simmons. They're interesting to watch, especially in the final showdown where they fight on top of a skyscraper under construction. But basically, this is really a very ridiculous movie, and those wonderful weapons are the most ridiculous part of it. I never have been able to understand exactly why these people feel that, you know, the whole villain thing, I want to rule the world, and you never know why he wants to rule the world.
Well, because he wants to rule the world because he's a villain. That's, you know, that's the way these guys are, Raj. You know, not like us. I thought it had a terrific premise. I like the idea of, you know, the robot technology going nuts and having all of this crawl over us and having a guy like Selleck have to do this job. And I like the sort of disdainful way he did it. It could have been a little bit of a comedy. And it's cute, but then it just falls apart. And when it turns into a simple chase film, well, then we might as well be in another kind of picture.
My pet peeve of the Christmas season is that every other picture, Beverly Hills Cop,
good idea,
the same way, City Heat the same way. At the end, well, City Heat never had a beginning either, but at the end, it turns into another chase, another confrontation. It's never dealt with in terms of characters. And as far as the machines, at the beginning of this film, it was fun. Remember Woody Allen and Sleeper, all the fun he had with machines?
No, I thought this was going to be real good in the beginning because it also doesn't tip you off that it's set in the future. And I think it was very clever. Michael Crichton did this film, but then it just dissolves into chase. So much for Tom Selleck. Now to recap our reactions to the movies on this show. We both voted thumbs down on the sci-fi epic Dune, but I hated it more than Roger. I wanted the skunk here. We both really enjoyed Jeff Bridges and Karen Allen, two of our best young actors in Starman, the best science fiction film of the holiday season, at least according to me. I enjoyed Mass Appeal with Jack Lemmon more than Roger did, so a split vote on that film. And finally, we split a little bit on Runaway, 2 thumbs down. I liked the futuristic robot adventure in the beginning, maybe even more than you, but then washout time.
So that's it for this week. Next time at the movies, Francis Ford Coppola's new epic of the 1930s, The Cotton Club, and Sissy Spacek and Mel Gibson in The River. And until then, we'll see you at the movies.